officially. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hello, how are you doing? It's a pleasure to be here. I
And
do enjoy being
sorry, what?
proof that I do enjoy being interviewed. It's proof that I'm alive.
It's a proof to yourself or to other people who make questions.
It's all the same. I don't even know anymore.
Well, you guys released your debut EP about 10 days ago. How's the reception been so far?
A lot better than I thought. Everyone's been nice to me, including your magazine.
Hawk is basically the reincarnation of this or the apocalypse.
Yeah, it's Jack and I are what remains of TOTA. You know, we've had conversations about trying to get TOTA together to play shows, and we've gotten Rodney to come up on stage and play TOTA songs with us with Hawk. But it was kind of a fool's errand trying to get everybody together. That's the problem when you have a band with songs that are so inhumane for the players to learn. Is like a couple years down the road when like, hey guys, we got invited to play Texas in July's Coming Back show. Everybody's like, dude, it'd take me a month to learn that shit again. And you know, I think everybody wants to be like, well, what about love for the music? It's like, well, we toured over 35 times. We proved how much we loved it. And now we got to pay our fucking bills.
Okay, that's brutally honest. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I have a policy of that.
Can you walk us through what happened since TOTA disbanded until Hawk was founded, I guess?
Yeah, it's really tough because TOTA never really disbanded. What happened was we lost our third record contract because of low album sales, which was always an issue. We could do well on tour, but we didn't sell many records, which oddly enough wasn't that bad for us. It was bad for the record labels. Now, we always thought everything was all good. And, you know, we were on a label that was trying to sell us our CDs for $7 a copy, which is absolutely ridiculous. So we stopped buying them, in which they started saying, hey, you guys need records for tour. And I reached out to the label. I said, hey, I know I signed a contract, but if you sell them to us at a discounted rate, we'll sell them. But like, we're fine with just selling t-shirts, man. I don't need to sell these things. And they're just like, well, this, there was a defining moment where as a band, I stopped doing things that didn't make sense financially. I stopped taking tours that were absolute nonsense on paper. And, you know, people start talking. You go from being everybody's best friend when you say yes to everything in the business to being the guy who, and I quote, doesn't get it anymore. It's like, doesn't get what? I'm not doing a tour for $250 a night for the band. I'm not talking about personal expenses. I'm saying the touring in that genre, the money, people don't realize. It's not like, I think when you say I'm not making money being in a touring band, people assume what you mean is you're making some money. You're just not making enough to be happy. What I mean is I wasn't making money. Like we would come back from tours with $1,000 in credit card debt, and we somehow owed a booking agent $2,500, and we somehow owed a manager $3,000. And they would be texting me asking when I could get them the money. That is what the state of the metalcore business about 8 years ago was. They were just taking all of these fucking bands, packing them onto tour packages with like 5 other bands, and no matter how much money these bands lost, managers would get 20% of imaginary profits. So let's say you put a band on a tour and they make $300 a night, right? So let's say let's give some imaginary numbers. I'm going to pull up a calculator because the thing about it is we did okay, and I don't want anybody's sympathy. I'm just trying to explain what this business was like in America, because a couple people made a lot of money and a whole bunch of young men who had no fucking idea how businesses work because they started touring when they were 19, like me. You know what I mean? We didn't really understand how this stuff works. So let's say you do a tour and your band's paid $350 a night, right? Let's do the math. Let's say you do 30 shows on that tour. Looks like you made $10.5 thousand in guarantees. Now let's double that. So you would only pay a cut of shirts that was like 7%, but let's say you sold $10,000 in merch. So you owed, you would pay royalties of like or you would pay like your commission on like 5,000 on that. So let's say you're like $15,500. So it looks like you made $26,000. However, let's say gas, food, like literally all fixing the van, literally everything you need. You would pay to print your own merch, by the way. You were still paying to print your own merch, and somehow you were paying a percentage of those sales, which was insane. So let's say you came back home with, all right, so it looks like you made $26,000. And let's say you had a good tour and you came home with 4. You would owe about $7,600 to your management, lawyer, and booking agent. And they would hit you up like you were a customer asking where their money was. And so you and your band, who just worked for a month and a half, sleeping in a van, would all of a sudden go, oh shit. And you would start scrambling to put work together so you could pay off your manager. And you normally wouldn't in time for the next tour. So you'd come up with some deal where they'd put you on a couple shows near your hometown where you made a couple grand, and you would just give them all the money. This is what being in a metalcore band was like for most people. I'm not going to say it was completely like that for us, because we had some good managers and stuff, but for the most part, it really, our whole entire touring structure for like metalcore and all of those bands, it kind of felt more like a scam than anything else. And I started picking up on that because as I started saying no to more gigs, we get offers and tours and stuff, I'd start going, dude, I'm doing the math. We're going to get fucked by this. I can't afford this anymore. I have a house. Like, I have things I have to do. And people start bullying you a bit. And they're like, dude, you used to get it. You used to want this. I wanted to do this. Yeah, but dude, these numbers aren't adding up. So, record label is disinterested. I stopped buying the CDs from them. I start focusing more on producing bands in my studio. And with the future goal, I'm going to put this shit out myself because I'm sick of this shit. This is ridiculous. So we got signed to a label. We sent them the record. They didn't like it. I ended up spending $12,000 going to different producers trying to figure it out. And he said, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to spend a few years. I'm going to learn how to do this myself. And basically what happened to This or the Apocalypse was over the years, people were leaving. It never really dissolved. We just signed under a new name, Hawk, with a record label that decided they didn't want to touch the record. They still own the masters for that full length. That full length has been redone 3 times and they never put it out. And I finally said, you know what? Fuck this. Let's just release our own stuff. So we're still kind of, there's like, I don't even know what's going on. We have a lawyer. He handles all of it. I don't even think about shit anymore. I just record the songs in my basement. I obsess over them. I make sure there's something that I'm proud of. And then from that point on, my manager deals with it. I don't want to talk about it ever again. This or the Apocalypse became Hawk for the better. We have a functional business where the 3 of us and our bass player, we are a team and we treat each other with respect. We treat our manager with respect. And I'm open with my manager and we talk about opportunities coming up and whether or not we can take them on and whether or not they make sense financially. I'm still not really making too much money off of this, but I am making enough that I can keep this business running and I can keep people getting paid. Like, TOTA navigated one of the most abusive systems that it was ever created. And that was the world where there were management companies with like 50 bands on their roster. And they didn't even know what the name of the singer was on like 40 of them. They would just throw them on as many tours as possible and take a chunk of their money. It was hilarious. It was one of the greatest, most hilarious scams ever pulled off because all the bands were just men in their early 20s who knew nothing about nothing. Here's the thing. I'm not on a label anymore. I'm not on anything. I can talk about it and I can have fun and I can make fun of it.
You chose to release an EP instead of a full length. What led you to that decision?
We wanted to make more songs, but we were locked in a building together during COVID, and it took us like 3.5 months to get 3 songs done. And I remember being like, we're not making any more fucking songs. I'm like, dude, we should do more. Like, no, I'm not doing it. We've redone Universes like 7 times.
I'm still listening to the EP, and it may get in my year list.
We have another one we're working on, and it's like it's like a rock CD. It's like all like singing and catchy stuff. And I guess we'll see what happens because we also have a full length that's heavy. And we're just kind of like,
Wait, that's a
there's
lot of
release.
material. So 2 EPs and 1 full length?
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff.
Give me the scoop. Do you have a time frame for that or sometime next year?
I have to redo a lot of the stuff on the full length because label paid for some of it, so they still think they own it. So we're working on that. And the EP we're working on with a producer named Josh Strock. And I thought we were going to have mixes like a month and a half ago, but me and him both teamed up to work on a bunch of other records. So he's been like, dude, we'll get back to it when we can. And like, the main thing that got in the way was I got COVID for a month. So we were originally going to have that EP done before Tolerance's Paradox even came out. And now it's kind of on the back burner until we figure out when we can get back around to it. But unfortunately, I'm buying my house right now. So anything that isn't making me money, I have to like, do slowly on the side. And that's just a matter of being adult and just being like, well, what am I going to do? Race out another EP right after we got one out. So we might be able to find a label that wants to put that one out. And if we found a deal that we liked, maybe we would do that. Probably going to do it self-release just because it's kind of badass and we're having fun doing it. But
And you keep all your money. Let's talk about the artwork and the title for a bit. The EP is called Tolerance's Paradox. And the accompanying artwork is phenomenal. I really love the symbolism and all that. Why did you choose the title and what does it represent to you?
So Tolerance's Paradox, there is like that's an actual philosophical term, but it's funny. I never actually knew, like I wasn't familiar with the one that is available on the internet, but I've always thought it was a funny concept of how, and this is a problem in America right now. Our media system is I think is actually making my whole entire country's mental health a thing that is very damaged. We are having debates over verifiable facts, which is pretty. That is. It's hard to find an equilibrium of reality when people are debating whether or not a disease that I had for a month, and somehow I still personally know people who are like, you probably just had a flu. And it was like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? What's wrong with you? Like, because I've had to be like, I experienced this. I went through it, and they're like, yeah, I just don't really believe the science that they're putting out there. Like, this is bad. We've actually reached a point where we have a very, very large mental health incident happening right now. And so here's the problem. I want to tolerate everybody and I want to be okay with them. But the more I enable them, the worse they get. And that's the paradox. How much enabling do I do before I'm a bad guy? How often have I been a bad guy by trying to be a good guy? And I think of this shit well into the, like, I fall asleep at like 3 a.m. every day. I'm always wired because I have to work on so many projects and do so much stuff. I'm buying this house right now, so I have to, like, to be a musician and to buy a house in a decent neighborhood, you don't get the gym anymore. You don't get a group of friends. You don't get going out on Friday nights, especially during a pandemic. You just work. So, in my free hours, sometimes when my brain's going, I always think, am I being a good guy? Am I doing the right thing? Like, in all situations. And you run into a situation where I've tried to be a good guy in so many situations, and I've actually helped people do worse by just, and that's what Tolerance's Paradox is about. Are we doing the right thing by letting these people go on the media and say whatever the fuck they want? But if we stop them, aren't we bad guys by telling them that, by taking away their rights? What do we do? So we use Langston Hughes for the art, a reference from Langston Hughes. And also when I talked to artist Mike Cortado, who Spencer from Ice Nine Kills insisted to me, I do a great Spencer impression. He's like, Ricky, you have to go with Mike. Mike, he's just phenomenal, Ricky. He just does the best. And he's right. So I got Mike on there and we talked, and he was asking me, what are you inspired by? I was like, civil rights authors, Langston Hughes, Gwendolyn Brooks, up through like Ralph Ellison, Invisible Man, like all that stuff. I grew up reading Black authors. I love, because there was just something about, Black authors from the U.S. They always had a cooler way of saying it, because frankly, the shit they had to go through was unbelievable. They weren't even, they would get yelled at if they went to a fucking diner and be like, dude, you sell shitty coffee and pancakes. Why can't they buy it? Like, how low are you going to treat human beings that they can't go into your shitty ass diner? You know what I mean? That's what America was like for a while. We would just yell at people for thinking for just wanting to buy your shitty product. And it's still bad. I really liked the idea of like, that's our ultimate moment as society. And it came back, was this problem where we are tolerating so many white power people and so many people who, and they hide it with all this bullshit of being like, no, it's really about, it's an economic issue. They pose economic issues. They present you an economic issue that is actually just a racial issue in disguise. And we are once again in a position where we're letting these people go on TV and letting them form frameworks of opinion, and it's tolerance as paradox. Well, how much are we going to humanize these people at the expense of these other people? So I really thought it was important to pay homage to, who I felt were some of the greatest, creatives that helped shape my opinion on things. And so I talked to Mike. I said, hey, I really want to I want to find something in Langston Hughes' work. And I want to make sure it actually cherishes what he did. I don't want to just be the white kid who's, taking, a great author's ideas just to seem interesting or unique. These are things I'm actually passionate about. And he killed it. He sent it to me like 4 days later, and it was a real piece of art. And I had tears running down my face, because he was like, I believe that your artwork belongs in a museum. I believe your ideas belong in a museum. So that's what I did. And I fucking cried, because I was just like, oh my God, this is cool. And he gave me a full synopsis, which is available on my Instagram. I don't even want to try to take Mike's words and reword them, because honestly, he did a great job. But every single detail in that artwork had a purpose, with like the gears and the flower and everything. And so it was really crazy, because then there's me and the way I talk and my lyrics, where I'm just like, this fucking guy, and these fucking, and people are saying this is art, and it was crazy for me. So for me, I obsess over lyrical content. I obsess over the music, and then I just let other professionals handle the rest. I try not to get too involved. I've worked with so many musicians, and they're so picky, and they want to they're so like, no, it has to be this and this and this. And they really ruin the jobs of the artists around them, trying to like work around this guy's vision. If we're in my studio, it's got to go a certain way, and I have to have a certain degree of control. But as soon as I give it to the artist, I am picking somebody who's my rule is obey God. You pick a God for every project. Some projects I'm God. Everybody's got to obey me. But for the artwork, I picked Mike, and whatever Mike wanted to do, that's what we were doing. You know what I mean? So that's, I hope that answers your question.
It does, actually, and in great detail. A follow-up to what you were saying, you touched on social issues lyrically, not in all the songs that we've seen so far, but you do. Would you see Hawk becoming more social or political in the future? Not partisan necessarily.
I kind of war with that a little bit. No, I think Hawk's just I'm gonna keep writing about whatever. And because we actually have a batch of songs right now. I don't scream at all in any of them. Like, I'm just singing in them. And they touch on these issues, but it'll be because like we're working on a song and I had a lyrical idea that kind of involved that. You know what I mean? I don't really want to I don't want to park in a lane where people expect us to speak on things, because frankly, I don't always know what the fuck I'm talking about. And I've watched that happen with bands I'm really close to, who feel this actual pressure to be thought leaders on subjects that they are not experts on in any way, shape, or form. I sit in a basement. I work on music. That's that. I read the news. I think I have a way of looking at things, but I'm no way, shape, or form a thought leader in any on anything. So the idea that some type of current event will happen, and I'll have fans being like, "Come on, man, what's your opinion?" And I gotta that's how you formulate shitty opinion. You go, we all should think this, and then everybody goes, "Okay, thanks." If I'm gonna write a song about my last relationship, or I'm gonna write a song about my relationship with my mother, I don't want anybody come in and be like, "Come on, man, where's the meaningful like current event lyrical content that we came to you for?" Like, don't fucking put that on me, man.
Did working as a producer help you become a better songwriter and write more memorable songs?
Hard yes, every way, shape, or form. I mean, like, down to I've learned quite a lot I've learned quite a lot about myself, but I also think I've shaped myself quite a bit. When you're producing music the way that I am, which I'm a writer producer, I'll have clients here, and I essentially, the way that I could describe it is like, hey, I'm joining your band while you're in here, and I have equal say, so I'm very collaborative. I don't have a single band that I think like didn't like working with me. I'm sure there are people who didn't think the final result was worth it, and that's totally, that's always could be real. But for most of my artists, they're pretty used to working with me, so they'll come with like maybe 50% of a song idea, and usually I'm tasked with coming up with the other 50%, and I'm kind of like changing melodies as we go, and the guitar player is playing something. I go, hey, can you that third note, bump that up a half step and do this with it, and like, cool. And some of them just hand me the guitar, and I'm just sitting here playing stuff and using the piano and everything. But what you're doing is you have like a checklist of things, and every month another thing gets added to the checklist, and now I have a checklist in my head of about 100 things where I'm like, okay, this is happening in the stereo field, and everything's kind of like here, and I have this melody, and I need something like this, I need this, and that finds its way into the songwriting process for sure, because there are really frequently times where all you need is just like a you might just have that looping over and over, and a vocal melody, and I just send it to Jack, and I go, hey, can you make this sound like kind of like grungy rock based on the chords? And he can make a whole instrumental based around that sounds great. He'll send it back to me, I'll send it to Adam, and like, can you record drums for this? And he'll do everything with the drums, and then I'll probably start cutting stuff and moving it around and everything. But to me, the song is just an active, we're just taking sounds and moving them around on the computer until the song sounds the way the song's supposed to sound. And I have a rule of like, don't get attached to anything until it's done. You know what I mean? Because maybe we might find one vocal line that really is special, and the guitar needs to be different so the vocal line can be what it needs to be, or vice versa, or whatever. And I think you deal with a lot of people where, like, I talk about this frequently, but music it's difficult for a lot of people because a lot of people think it's an extension of their humanity, or like it's a very emotional thing. And so they see it as they see songwriting as desperately clinging to things they think are right. And I see songwriting as, let's all prove how stupid we are, and try to like make something better than what we thought we could. And let's keep changing it. Like if we have a chorus, write a new one, And so that producing has taught me to get over myself quite a bit, because I've learned that if you sit down and think, you can always make a better version of what you're doing.
Follow-up question. Do you ever get or fear of getting burnout?
Yeah, I do. I've been experiencing it quite a bit during COVID, but when you don't have a choice, you just keep going. I'm in my 30s. At a certain point, nobody wants to hear you cry about how you're tired. You just keep working, and you get better enough at what you're doing that you get it done. That's the only answer.
What is passion for you? How do you define it?
I can answer that. I can give you a good answer. So TOTA, the stuff with TOTA, kind of, as it became clear we weren't going to tour anymore, I stayed here and I was learning how to make this stuff, because I was like, fuck you, I'm going to learn how to make my own records, right? So so I put a lot of time and energy into that, about figuring out how to make records, and this went on for years. And frankly, those were kind of dark years for me because they were very unhappy. I wasn't seeing a lot of people. I had a lot of friends talking to me about like my lack of a social life. You know, I was living with my partner that I was dating at the time. She was not a very social person, so we just kind of created this world where I just kind of walled myself off from the world. And Ice Nine Kills calls me one day. So I go on a tour on 3 days notice because I was going through the breakup from that relationship and everything. And it was on like somewhere a couple days into a tour with Motionless in White and Every Time I Die and Ice Nine Kills, when I realized that Motionless in White, they had like 11 of their friends on payroll on the tour. And something about that made me want to work until my eyes fucking bled. Because I was just like, wait, I could hire Jack and Adam and Dandon, and it never, because you like, being on stage is cool. It's a rush. It's fun. Being the center of attention is cool. It's fun. But there is no way, if you think critically enough, there is no way to kid yourself out of the fact that you are doing it because you're a narcissist. So when you, which is not the most honorable of exploits. You know, my grandfather, he was a celebrated B-24 bomber, which you either see that as a great thing or a bad thing. And you know, my father, he has worked and sold life-saving bulletproof materials his whole life. And you know, and I've had so many people in my life who have these honorable pursuits, and I always had to see my own pursuits as being fairly narcissistic and self-serving. I wanted to be a musician, and I really couldn't figure out how it was a good thing, despite the fact that people would approach me and be like, your song means a lot to me. I'd be like, hey, songs mean a lot to a lot of people, and there's a lot of them. It would have been that one or another one, you know? But when I went on tour with Motionless in White and I saw that they had like 11 of their friends on payroll, changed my fucking life, because I was just like, wait, if I work hard enough, I can hire my friends. And then all of a sudden, I was like, that seemed honorable, because I have friends with injuries. I have friends who are like losing work. I have friends who hate their jobs. I've had friends who have dealt with mental health issues because they hate showing up at a fucking warehouse. And I was just like, I can be a force of good in this world if I work hard enough, and I can help people out of their situation. And that's where my passion showed up. And I might have drank 3 times since the beginning of that tour. I stopped drinking. I just wanted to work out, get in shape. I wanted to get my business to a point where I could have more people be a part of it, where enough money was coming in. I wanted to get the Hawk songs going because I had several talented friends who were part of it, who I thought, you know, like our video guys even get a chance to get their stuff shown when they make a video with us. And so I see the video as something I need to work really hard on. My friends mix with me. They get their name on it. You know, I see everything as just, as soon as I was making decisions for what's good for everyone around me, decisions are pretty easy to make. Before I had made that like revelation, it was really hard to make decisions because they always seem like something I needed to decide for myself, which I'm really bad at. But if you're like, hey, we need to release a full length, it'll be really good for everybody on the team. You go, okay, that's worth not sleeping for a week over. But if it's, hey, you need to release a full length so everybody thinks you're cool, it's like, nah, let's push it back a few months. Yeah, does that make sense?
It does, and I think that's very noble.
I hope so.
Well, if we take as a fact that being an artist of any kind means that you are considered because you want your work to be seen and you want to be appreciated, then wanting your friends to have a job and a better life, frankly, I think that's really admirable.
Well, it makes being an artist seem a little less like a pompous dickhead thing to do to the world. Be like, hey guys, I'm another one of these guys. It's like, we already have so many of them.
In the video for Mileage and Jason's mom, you seem to be very uncomfortable the entire time.
Really?
Like, I didn't sign up to be here. Is that a dramatized version of yourself or just a persona that you did for the camera?
To be honest with you, it is persona because I asked to see my face and things. And I have this thing in videos. I just love being the deadpan guy. Even since a young age, I always loved music videos, but I have this thing about music, and I actually feel this very strongly. Where to me, video and the musician, I always wanted to just feel like I was hanging out with that person. And when you have these characters where somebody's doing the, all that stuff and all that, it would make me uncomfortable. Like, listen, if we were in this room and you started doing that stuff, I kind of sit here and be like, hey, could you what are you doing? So I never knew why people would do it in their videos. You know what I mean? We're just like, and like people see it as like energy and passion and stuff. But for me, I would kind of imagine being in a room with that person, like, or in the library, and you're like, what's Bill doing? What is Bill doing? What is Bill doing? Is he okay? Is he okay? And so I always, but then there's certain musicians where they just sit down, they'll be like at their piano and they'll start chatting with you and they might start playing and you're like having fun and you're kind of vibing and you guys are having a good time. And so I see performance as that. And I've always like wanted to be like, how do I take my personality that like is the one that's in the room with the band that I'm working with, because people work with me and, we kind of have those moments where sometimes they'll be like, really? We're going to do that? Okay, we're doing that. And I've managed to just kind of like park that into my artist persona a little bit. And every now and then I get criticized for it because I've had people being like, what is with these your unenergetic performances? I was like, that is literally just me being myself. With the Jason's Mom thing, it's like, all right, I'm doing the acoustic cover of Jason's Mom. I recorded it, the acoustics and stuff. Spencer and Joe recorded their vocals. I recorded mine, but I did all the guitars with Jack. And, I was very passionate about it. I made sure everything was done right. I spent all day editing it. But, in the video, it was funny because we spent like 2 hours setting up all the lighting in my room for the video. And then you just sit there, you're like, Jason's Mom, huh? All right, we're doing it. What else am I supposed to do? Do this while playing the acoustic cover of Jason's Mom? Like really slather it on there. But I do appreciate you noticing.
Would you mind if I asked a couple questions about Ice Nine?
What do you think I'm gonna like freak out and be like, we agreed to talk about Hawk. Ask me whatever you want.
A couple months ago, you guys did the Silver Stream, which was a brilliant idea. My question is, do you have any fond memories from the Palladium in that night?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, the one thing that bummed me out was my parents were supposed to be there, and the girl I was dating at the time, she FaceTimed them for me, and she held the phone out, and it was a sold-out show with like 3,600 people there, and I think that was the first time that my parents realized I wasn't playing clubs anymore. I don't think they actually knew, and they were like afterwards, like, "Holy shit! What? Why were all those people? What? Yeah." But yeah, we had so many friends there, and that one was emotional. It's not too, I have different states I have to be in. Like I'm always like kind of wired and going. I'm kind of a manic personality type, and I have like, for shows, in order for shows to not be psychologically difficult for me, I have to put myself into a state that's comfortable where I'm just kind of thinking about my performance. I'm like, all right, cool. All right, I know what I'm doing. All right, yeah. I'm like, and I emotion stays out of it. Like, if I'm the type of person like even with Hawk or Ice Nine Kills, Hawk, I've had to play some shows with my in-ears came out. So I have like the in-ear monitors where I hear my voice. So we don't actually have any monitoring. If these things fail, Hawk doesn't have any monitoring that you can hear anything. So I'm literally just hearing drums and I'm faintly hearing the guitars in the PA system. And I just go, here goes. And I am just singing by memory, hoping I'm hitting the notes. And I have to think it's fun. I have to be like, oh shit, I'm on the ultra difficulty mode today. So, as to where like, yeah, there are times where I get off stage, like, what the fuck was that? How the fuck am I supposed to, you want to be that person, but it's uncomfortable for me to be that person. I want to just, because it's probably uncomfortable for fans to watch that too. Watch the guy who's like, you know, scowling and sweat. How the fuck are you going to entertain anybody? It's your job to go on there and make those people forget how much they hate themselves. And hopefully that will make you forget how much you hate yourself. And everybody together has a moment. You know, we have a moment for like an hour and a half where you look at each other, you're like, you know what, this is pretty fucking fun, you know? And so there's a lot of that. Like, I'm always just looking for people who I can make eye contact with and be like, I don't know why I'm up here. I don't know why they let me do this. It's just genuinely like, I don't know what other performers are thinking when they're up there. There's a lot of things you could put in your head and you can make it about you and be like, oh my God, I finally did it. I finally did it. And then, you know, the next time you come back, if it's not sold out, what's going to happen? You're going to start thinking things like, wait, I didn't do it anymore. What happened? And for me, it's just, yeah, it was full and it was fun. And hopefully next time it's full. But if it's not, I'm going to just try to have the exact same mindset, you know? And I don't attach my worth to these things anymore because they're volatile and they could go one way or the other way. And the more you attach your worth to things that are volatile, the harder it is to stay healthy. And the only way to do that is for me to be that, for me to actually be able to disconnect a little bit. And then I read a review that's really good. And I actually was talking to the guys because there have been a few reviews that are like commenting on the lyrical content, which when it comes to my voice, I don't really identify with that as very much. But when it comes to like the words and stuff, you know, those to me, like they matter, you know, and I try to pretend they don't. And I've gotten a lot of reviews that are just like talking about the quality of the lyrical content. And I actually was talking to my manager and Jack, and I was like, hey, this is bad because I'm starting to like these reviews and it's kind of scaring me. I don't want to be that guy again. They're like, oh no, come on, man, be nice to yourself. Like you should take some pride in it. I'm like, no, because then I'm inviting criticism back in. Because as soon as you invite in the good reviews, then you have to start believing the bad ones too. You know, where do you draw the line? Are you like, no, I only accept compliments? Because some compliments are actually criticism. You know what I mean? Like they could be sneaky.
This is great, actually, because you basically answered my next question. Ice Nine have been under scrutiny for releasing both the live album and the acoustic set from the Stanley Hotel. And some fans claim that you're trying to milk the silver screen as much as you can, which I find ridiculous, but anyway.
If you know, maybe they should yell at everybody for fucking buying it. You know what I mean? Like Ice Nine's just making the content that they think their fans want, and rightfully so. Spencer genuinely is working like a psychopath on the next record. He writes his ass off for that band. Everybody has a hand in it. Everybody sends him ideas. Pat sends him ideas. Joe, Dan, they all work together. I send him ideas. Spencer's got this big old vision, and he's working really hard on the next record. And along the way, people need to understand how these bands work when they're at the level of Ice Nine Kills. Ice Nine Kills has all those, you know what I was talking about with Motionless in White? Ice Nine has those friends on payroll. We have, you know, we have all these people who are very much a part of Ice Nine's business, who are very much relying on Ice Nine. And Ice Nine and Spencer, and when I talk about Ice Nine, I'm saying like Spencer is the guy who's always deciding things, and he's trying to keep that business going. They have me, you know, they have Pat, they have everybody. They are always going to keep trying to find ways to release content. And right now is not the time for a new record. It's just not. The one blessing in disguise here is he's got so many songs. He's trying to make the best ones that he can. And in that interim, he has to keep his business like and his fan base satisfied. So of course he's gonna, right now during a pandemic when we can't tour, we're not gonna release a full length when we can't tour. That's insanity. And given I don't even talk to Spencer about this, so he's never said any of these things to me. This is more of me just looking at the situation like a grown adult. So I think people will be like, what the fuck? We want new stuff. It's just kind of like, chill. Dude, we are in a pandemic, and right now our main writer has the opportunity to explore all these things. He's working with different writers. He's trying out so many things. And you know that he's working with writers because he's always posting on his stories. So I'm not telling anybody anything that the band hasn't told anybody. But the thing about it is he's genuine. Like, that guy's life is Ice Nine Kills. And I follow that guy into war, and I trust his sense of doing things. And the fans want content. Unfortunately, we can't. It's not going to just all of a sudden just slap together stuff that's not finished, because even during the pandemic, like some of the producers that we want to work with, you can't even go see them right now. They won't work with anybody one-on-one. So you're doing like Zoom calls and stuff. I'm not going to put out a song that was put together on a Zoom call, unfortunately. So, any of those people, I think they're holding the band to a standard as if it was still active and touring right now, which is just simply not. We have not been, since we were in Europe, and then we all flew home. And there are 3 guys in LA right now, and they can get together. Pat and I can't get over there. They can't get to the producers. They can sometimes when it's actually available, but LA is like way more restrictive than anywhere else in the country. And like I think 2 of them had to go get a cabin in Big Bear recently to like go, like, so they could get together and write for a while, just because everything's shut down. So I would hate to see that, like, the voices of a couple fans trying to create this perception of the band like milking things is as simple as that. It's like a little bit more of a situation where Spencer really does want to keep making new content for his fans without sacrificing the quality of the rest of the content. I think everybody should trust the guy. And it's like, hey, if you didn't want a live DVD, don't fucking pay for the live DVD. But you can see that there are sales for it, and you can see that there are actually a lot of people who wanted it, and you can respect those people and not act like they're stupid for wanting it. You know what I mean?
We are done with those questions. Time to go on some more serious ones and more difficult ones.
Oh.
If Hawk were members of the Spice Girls, what would be your Spice names?
I'm really good at explaining things that he doesn't like Spice. Jack is I think he listened to that 4-bore loop of a song too many times, Spice. Adam is I fucking hate that kid for how talented he is at 21, Spice. And Bernie is always looks like he saw something really fucked up happen to somebody that he loves, Spice.
If you could have a 1-minute phone conversation with a younger you, what age would you call, and what would you tell yourself?
The first thing would be like, shut the fuck up. And when I say shut the fuck up, I mean shut the fuck up. And then I would just word vomit for a minute, be like, we got a minute here, so just shut the fuck up. Stop caring what's inside of other people's heads. You can't change it. Just stop caring what's inside of other people's heads. I forgive you for being an idiot. And then and then it would go off. I would have a list of things. I would forgive him for being an idiot. I would ask him to stop caring what was inside of other people's heads. There's a list of like 5 people that I've always wondered what their opinions would be on things that I do. And you find out, when you finally find out what it is, it's really not that interesting or helpful. And I would also say, spend more time working on your craft and less time trying to promote it. You get fans when you deserve fans. And that's what I would tell a lot of musicians, because there's a lot of people that are like, how do I get my name out, man? I got to get my name out. It's like, do you? What do you do that's so special? Like, I don't know. I'm really ambitious. And you're like, yeah, so is Charles Manson. Maybe work on your craft a little bit and believe fans when you hear them. You know what I mean? When fans start liking it, just believe that something cool is happening. But, we were really good at promoting. And the one thing was, I've always had a great, like, friendly person. I talk to people. I got the gift of gab from my father. I was lucky. My dad was like, he was a born salesman. And, and that really kind of helped me a lot in the music business, because there was always that thing of being like, that band's not great, but I love that Ricky guy. And there's so much of that. And if somebody has that, that they can really utilize that. But at a certain point, if you do not have the ability to make the product, you're going to run into some problems. And a lot of musicians that I work with, they're still at novice, even people who are touring on labels, they're like still at a novice playing level for what they want to do. And they might be in their like mid-20s. And it's just like, dude, you got to get some lessons, and you can't limit yourself this much. And they always like get really annoyed and be like, oh man, yeah, like, dude, I know I don't rehearse a lot. It's like, no, this isn't something you can fix with rehearsing. This is actually a matter of ideas you do not have in your head yet that you're not going to just all of a sudden figure out on your own. Like you have to have professionals help with this. I did go get lessons a lot. I always struggled with vocals a lot until like I was 30. I couldn't really do them that well. And not to say that I do them well now. I've gotten better at it for sure, because I can compare the two and I have ears. But still, a younger version of myself was really thought it was I need to network, and I just got to get on tour, and then I'll get good from playing shows every night. And it's like, no, you'll get rehearsed, but that doesn't mean you're going to get good, you know? And so being in a studio and being able to play every instrument, think about music and work at it, you know, not everybody has the ability to take all the time in the world to do what I did, you know? So I understand that. And that's why I do think about that question a lot. What would I tell a young version of myself? And it's just like, yo, I know that going out with your friends is fun, but they're all going to get kids. And like, you're going to be like, where are they? It's like, they're with their kid.
Okay, your house is on fire and you only have time to grab 3 items before you leave. Pets and family are safe. What do you take?
That's a really good question. I actually recently had to experience this because our circuit board lit on fire. Michael ran into the room and he was just like, dude, the circuit board's on fire. And we had fire extinguishers on it and it was still on fire because it was electrical. And I was like, guys, I might die, see ya. And I had to like I had to like, you know, cover up my hand and just start flipping off breakers. And we got the fire out. But the fire was going on long enough that I had to actually start thinking. And I was just like, okay, you know, if in this room, the first thing I would probably have to do is just grab my laptop, and I would probably grab like 2 of my, like, I don't know, you know, that's such a difficult thing to think about. I would definitely grab my laptop so I could keep working. And then, you know, some of my guitars are worth more than a couple $1,000s. You know, I might want to grab one of them. I have so much stuff that's like really sentimental. You know what I mean? But I know the question's supposed to be fun, so it'll be my computer, one of my guitars, and the volcano. My house burnt down. I'm smoking. Sorry, guys.
Okay, I'm done with the questions. Thanks again for taking the time to do this. Do you have any final words?
No, thank you guys so much for being here.
Hopefully we'll get to see you guys soon.
It was so good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Take care. Oh, the cat. Let me see the cat.
That's him.
Oh, what is its name?
Mitsos.
Mitsos? I thank you for showing me Mitsos. I like him. I have this joke that I do on my Instagram where I'll just play sad music and I'll tell stories from what it was like touring back then. Like the time when we played a show in Florida and we were booked in we played in Texas and we were booked in Florida the next day. And the drive was 14 hours. And we lost an hour because of the time zone change. And I was still screamed at on the phone because mathematically we couldn't make it to the next show in time. So we were a few hours late for load-in, and I was still screamed at over not being able to make a mathematically impossible drive. And I was told that the person who was putting on that show was sick of working with unprofessional artists. I hadn't slept. I drove all night to a show that was paying us maybe $300, and I was yelled at for not getting there on time.